Hello there. Hi. Hello there. Hi. Welcome. 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 I know you're watching this. Maybe somebody sent it to you because you're over the age of 20 or in your 30s and somebody thought this is a good watch. You need to watch it. And welcome. Thank you for clicking and getting ready to watch. Now, today is the 6th of July. I just got back from church. 6th of July, and I was having a conversation with somebody, and I was saying to the person, I turned 40 this year. And the person was like, oh, really? How? I mean, I think I look 40, but that's conversation for another day. The person said, oh, no, you don't. And it took me back to a conversation that I had with an amazing bunch of women last week where we're talking about maximizing your relationships 20s to 30s and what to do to be able to maximize those relationships. Now, in that 2 minute conversation we had, the person was arguing like, how are you 40? And I was like, okay, hold on. My first daughter is 12. I'm 40. Do the maths. And she's like, no, you look like you're 32 or 35. And I was like, nope, let's do the maths. And I made sense of the fact that, I got married when I was 26, 27. I had my first daughter when I was, I would say 28, right? Do the maths. And that should make you understand why I'm 40, right? And then the person was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. My point here is, and this is back to the conversation I had with some ladies, when you're in your 20s and 30s, you think that you have all the time in the world. You think that, look, I have all the time in the world to faff around. I can do what I need to do. I'm telling you now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, wow, I don't have time, because before you know it, in fact, I look at pictures of myself and maybe people are right, because I feel like I look like the same person. I speak like the same person. I act like the same person. So even how am I even 40? And the fact is that time will pass by. You think you have all the time in the world, but what are you doing in those years, your 20s, your 30s? What relationships are you building? Are you building yourself? I spoke last week about in that session when I said, look, if you don't focus on building yourself, it's almost like something that will not go away. Because when you then eventually get married or in future, you will have to go back and try and build yourself, or even remove the onions that maybe may be affecting you for the future. For instance, for myself, there's certain things about myself that right now I am realizing that I need to work on. And so even though I am 40, I'm like, oh wow, maybe I'm noticing that. For instance, let me give a classic example. I remember when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I realized that people's approval was important to me, and that was because of my upbringing, and that was something that I had to deal with and realize that you don't need to wait for people's approval. You need to get your main approval from God and focus on building yourself. As long as you can see yourself through the lenses of God, that is all that matters in life. And so that was something I had to deal with. Imagine if I did not realize that in my early 30s, and I'm only realizing that when I'm 40. You can imagine the insecurities I will be dealing with. And that is my point here. If you're watching this video, you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, or late 20s, early 30s, or even more. Always realize that in order to live the fullest version of yourself, you need to constantly build yourself. You need to constantly zone in on yourself. Even if you're in a season when all your friends are getting married. Yeah, great. Everybody has different seasons. I remember I have different kinds of friends across the world. And I remember some of us got married early 27, 28. Some of my friends didn't get married until mid 30s. And they used to do amazing things that I used to look over my shoulder and think, oh wow, they were climbing up their career ladder. They didn't get stuck in, oh, this friend is getting married, what am I doing about my life? No, it was not about that. It was about the fact that, look, yes, my friends are getting married, but this is the time for me to build my career. This is the time for me to spend time doing things, spend time traveling if you can afford to, spend time doing courses to improve on yourself if you can afford to. That is the entire reason to being understanding yourself in your 20s and your 30s. Never look at time as wasted time. In fact, let me put this in perspective for myself based on where I am at right now. A classic example. So I am, like I said, 40. I have 3 kids. They're 12, 9, and 4. My 12-year-old is going to be 13 next year. So that means that I am entering a season when I need to be present. I need to be present for my children. I need to be present for my teenager. It is not a season when I need to be gallivanting everywhere. So if I have a friend who just had a newborn baby and she has more time on her hands, I need to be mindful of the fact that the season of my life requires for me to be more present for my children. And that is understanding your seasons. So when you're in your 20s or in your 30s, the primary way that you can maximize your life or fulfill your life is understand the season of life that you are in. I say this to people that I mentor every day. I say this to them. I say, look, one of the things that I believe that God gave me earlier on in my life was, I found God when I was 19. By the time I was 20, I was in university, second year of university. I focused on building my career. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. You're in second year of university. How are you building your career? I was doing courses that were focused on maybe technical skills or even doing free work experience, volunteering for roles. What that meant for me was by the time I finished university when I was like 21 plus, and I wanted to start work, I had done a lot of part-time work. By the time I got my full career job when I turned, I think 24 or 25, they did not give me an entry-level job. It was not an entry-level job because after my undergrad, I then went on to do some part-time roles. I then did a master's in case you're doing the maths. So my full career job started when I was like 24. They could not give me an entry-level role because they looked at the amount of experience that I had amassed, whether it was volunteering or free or part-time, and they thought this person was not an entry-level person. And so it gave me a career boost early in life. Now, some of you may be listening to this and say, oh, I've missed the years, I've lost the years, or maybe I'm trying to find a job and I cannot get a job. I know stories of people who just went to meet somebody and said, you know what, don't pay me. I will be here. I will do this work in your office for you from work from home. Don't pay me. Let me just get the experience. That is how you harness your skills. That is how you build yourself as somebody in 20s to 30-year-olds. You need to look at the season of life that you're in and begin to say, what do I need to do for this season that I am in? How can I improve on myself? Yes, I'm not dating anybody right now, but I can begin to read books. I know people say this, books on parenting. I can begin to spend time building my career because you have a lot of time to your hands. For me, for instance, I remember in my 30s, I had to do a career detour because after I had kids, I realized I couldn't work in the consulting sector anymore. My family needed me. So for me, the career detour meant I had to work in an NGO because it allowed me to have more time. But imagine if I was somebody in her early 30s, no husband, no wife. There are strategic moves I would have made in my career. Maybe I would have decided to work outside the world, outside outside of where I was, travel the world or something. But there's certain things that you're able to do. And so in your 20s and your 30s, you need to maximize your time. You need to maximize your relationships. Don't say, in a lot of Gen Zs these days will say, oh, look, I'm 20, 30s. You can't speak down at me. I'm a Gen Z. I don't want to do that. You can't just treat me anyhow. A lot of people have met their future husbands through their bosses simply because they were diligent and hardworking at their work. And somebody said, oh, I like that girl. You know what? I'm going to introduce her to my uncle's brother's daughter. And that's how they met their future spouses. I know people, myself inclusive, where jobs that I had done, I came back later on to realize that those relationships that I maintained were the ones that opened future doors for me. You don't want to be burning bridges in your 20s and 30s. You want to focus on building yourself. You want to focus on being the best version of yourself. In fact, regardless of whatever trauma you have experienced in your teens, in your 20s, this is the time when you need to say, God, you're spending time with God. I remember in my 20s, in fact, it's amazing. In my early 20s, I would wake up on Saturday, no responsibility. I can't even try that now. Tell me, because before I wake up, my 4-year-old is on my head. But I remember in my early 20s, I would just wake up and read my Bible and just play worship music and just be present and just think and read a book and do some amazing things. These are the kind of things you do in your 20s when some people that have that opportunity. Now, for me to get that kind of time, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. because that's the only time I can have some thinking space where my 4-year-old is not in my head. And so that is the point. What are you doing to maximize your years now? What are you doing? Because a lot of the times I say it, and even I can think about COVID. Now COVID is over. I look back and I wish for the COVID years. But guess what? The COVID years, I loved they were lazing around, but a lot of us were complaining about those years. 2020, 2021, lockdown, there was nothing to do. I miss those years because it was like life just stopped. Now that you're 20s and 30s, yes, things are not busy, but this is the time to zone in and build yourself. This is the time when you need to work on yourself. I'm going to be doing a lot of these videos, and please, if you're listening and this has been beneficial to you, you can go back and watch a lot of my live sessions. There's a group that I mentor annually. It's called The Chosen Company, and I do some certain sessions with them and my friends. I've done some of them on my live sessions. Go back, rewatch some of the videos, share this video with a friend that you think just needs to have a mindset shift. This is the time in your life when you will never get this years back. Don't look back and say, oh, my friend is getting married, oh, my life is slow. No, maximize your life. Be present. Be yourself. And that is the message I want to preach to you. Don't forget, subscribe in the channel, leave a comment, send me an email, or maybe sign up for my newsletter. I send out weekly newsletters just to people to be able to, get motivated and stay inspired. Sign up for my newsletters if you want to hear from me on a weekly basis. Also join the Chosen Company on Instagram. It's an amazing growing platform as well of women 20s to their 30s and above. And go back and rewatch some of my sessions with my friends. It's truly an honor. But let me say this to you. What will your future self say to you when they look back and see how you spent your 20s and your 30s? Make sure you maximize, regardless of the season or where you find yourself. Life, they say, is what you make of it. I know things are tough. I know things can be hard. But don't ever give up on yourself. You owe it to yourself. Regardless of the season that you're in, go out and smile and let your future self say thank you. See you guys, and don't forget, subscribe, like, and come back and rewatch my videos. Bye-bye.